I'm Jerry Webster. I just retired in June of last year from teaching for 41 years in university situations and all over the place, etc., just like all of my colleagues here today. And I've known Dave forever. When I say that, I kind of say that with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, but I think he understands what I'm talking about. So in the late 70s, in Will's Music Store in Salem, Oregon, I walked in, and this guy here says to me, "Dr. Webster," and I went, "Dr. Monette." And so today, this little guy from Kalamazoo, Michigan, has the right to not quack, which he likes to say. Let's quack about that. He has the right, I think, after 25 years of trying to please the trumpet community, to do a lot of crowing today. And not the bad kind of crowing, but the good kind of crowing. Dave started, he asked me to tell you what the real story is. So that's what I'm about to do. He started by taking trumpets apart. You know, it's sort of like the little kid who takes the alarm clock apart, figure out what goes on inside. Well, he started by taking apart trumpets. But then he put them back together as tunable bell instruments. And you'll still see some of them around, and there are still a few of them around. And they were improved, no question. But he got very frustrated with lead pipes. So his first endeavor was in the lead pipe thing. So at the time I was living over in Pullman at Washington State University over in the state of Washington and Eastern Washington. And so the phone would ring, and this is before caller ID. I would have really enjoyed caller ID because the phone would ring, and I'd pick up the phone and I go, "Hello," and then I'd hear, "Dee-da-dee-dee-ba-da." And then there'd be silence, and then I would hear, "Dee-da-dee-dee-da-da." And he'd walk over to the phone and he'd say, "Which one do you like the better?" I think number 2 is better. I'm telling you a true story. I'm telling you a true story. Then we began to get care packages from the Monette Corporation. Little round tubes filled with lead pipes. And our game, and there are several people here that were there at that time, our game plan was to try all of these lead pipes and to tell him what to produce the results. Okay, pipe number 15-074 is really good compared to pipe number 15-07. Okay, so that's the one. Okay, and then I would send them back, kind of thing. Although he had an agreement with me, keep whatever you like. And I thought that's kind of cool. So I'll tell him the 1-4 wasn't good at all. So he started with lead pipes and all this kind of stuff, and then he got serious. He started working with, consulting with, doing some research with people who are experts in fluid mechanics, so that allowed him to figure out some of the other stuff that he came to grips with. And for a while during that time period, I kind of stayed up with him. I stayed informed and all of that. Then I had some personal things, and I kind of took a sidetrack. Then he moved to Bloomington. And actually, I went out to Bloomington right before the Ithaca ITG, and we put together in his basement, which was a dirt floor in a rental house that he had in Bloomington, and cold as heck down there and damp and everything, with a Bairns-O-Matic torch. We put together, I helped him put together by holding the parts, trumpet I think is 005. Is that right?
001 and 002.
Were those ones? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so anyhow, as soon as we got these things together, then we play tested them, all of that. But before we could get in the car and drive to Ithaca, New York, which we did directly, we left at night and drove all night and all the next day, we had to degrease these instruments. And so in order to degrease the instrument, Dave said, "I got to go out and degrease it." I went, "What do you mean degrease it?" He goes, "Just follow me." So we went upstairs and out to his front porch. And on the front porch is a waste basket filled with gasoline. So he dips the horn in the gasoline to get all the grease particles and all the junk off of it. And there are people walking by smoking, you know. I'm going, "Are you insane? Are you crazy?" And so that was his big degreasing tank. So we went to Ithaca, and it was the first time I stood behind the desk, which was very interesting to have trumpet players come up and try out the trumpets and all of this, you know. So a trumpet player coming up to try a trumpet will go, what's this? You say, "Well, it's a Monette trumpet." "Yeah, really?" He picks up the trumpet and goes, right in your face. It's really nice. It's very pleasant. Same thing happened in London. We had a nice time in London together also. I came home, and I knew that his money that he was earning from making lead pipes and doing conversions and all of that was getting eaten up by speeding tickets. You think I'm kidding, and I'm not. So he was going to Chicago and he was going to Cincinnati and all this kind of stuff. And every time I turned around, he'd say, I got another speeding ticket, $265 or something like this. So I packed up a care package of tea and a bunch of stuff in this care package, but the big thing in there actually was a radar detector. Because I said you need to keep the profits of the fruits of your labor, so use the radar detector so you won't get more speeding tickets. So now here's the real point. This one I really want to have fun with. We all knew, I mean, all of us who knew Dave back in those days, in the late 70s and early 80s, and when he started doing this wonderful stuff, we knew he was crazy. And a lot of people thought that he really was crazy, because he invented a trumpet, basically, with parts and so on and so forth, putting them together. And he liked to call this trumpet the superior tone color, STC. So you still have this today, STC1, STC2. What was really fun in those days is that Dave had decided to build a better mousetrap, okay, like a lot of inventors, a lot of creative people. So in helping him build a mousetrap, he employed his cat. And the cat's name was Sheldon the Cat. So all of a sudden, some of these non-believers out there, and there were a few of them, crazy people, thought that STC meant Sheldon the Cat. So they were saying, Dave's getting messages, he's astral projecting and talking to his cat, and so he's coming up with all these lead pipes and bells and all of this stuff. We just died laughing over Sheldon the Cat. Sheldon was rest in peace. Sheldon was a really wonderful cat, and Dave had a great time with him. He was one of Dave's best friends, if not his best friend for years. A couple of other things. I remember going to, just again, a little thing about Mr. Monette. His first Kundalini classes in the Kundalini Yoga in Chicago, we did that. And in Chicago is one of the big, I think, points of development of the corporation, because he was smart enough to hire several of my students, former students. For instance, Kevin Wolfel back there in the Monette shop right now is, Jeff Snyder is a former student of mine, John Kim is a former student of mine, Kyle Oswald is a former student. So he's been really intelligent in how to build trumpets. He knows where to go to find the best students. Then there were the 30 million Indian dinners that we had, which is why I started Prilosec. Then there were the airplane trips to the Oregon coast to get a bowl of soup. Hey, come on, let's go get a bowl of soup over in Pacific City. So we get in his plane out in Troutdale and fly to Pacific City. The one that I really remember is he decided to take me in his plane to a little landing strip in the middle of the forest, somewhere over here in southeast, in the Cascades, in southeast part of the greater Portland area. And this landing strip was about from here to the truck. And so we landed okay, hit the brakes, and okay. It was the takeoff that was a little bit of a problem. I don't know if you remember this, but so he turned the plane around. I said, let me get out and back this thing up so we got a couple more feet of runway on this one. He said, no, it's okay, it's okay. So we took off, and he gunned the thing, and we went right over the tops of the trees, and I'm not kidding to tell you, it's typical Dave Monette inventiveness. We were inches away from the top of those trees. It was at that moment that I said, oh my God, I've got to go on a diet. Some of you may remember, and I'm going to close in a second here, some of you may remember I had the real privilege of being the MC. He's crazy. He had invited me back for a second dose of it. The MC for his opening concert here in Portland, which was Maynard's band and a bunch of people, many of whom are sitting here today. When was it, 15 years ago, something? 15, 16 years ago, something like
September
this.
of '92.
Yeah, there you go. Incredible. It was an incredible concert, and I think what you're going to hear tonight is going to be another incredible concert. The thing I really admire about, and I know several people in here, I'm preaching to the choir, is that Dave's whole point in building trumpets and such is really to build the better mousetrap. And his point has consistently been, since I've known him, that the trumpet should be easier to play, not harder. And so every development, every new development, that's exactly what happens. And there are lots of testimonies of, Dave, you changed my trumpet playing life. You changed my life forever, because I now have a trumpet that does what I tell it, and it's wonderful, and so on and so forth. And what amazes me, and I think amazes all of us, is the constant development, redevelopment, and improvements, and all of this kind of thing. And his point was always consistent. The trumpet player should be able to interpret the music
And that's all the trumpet player should be able to do, have to do, or think about, just interpreting and making the music, which I think is a huge thing, and I think that a lot of people in modern society forget that this is a technical instrument, but it's a musical instrument. And so I think my hat's off to Dave Monette for taking the musical development of the trumpet to the next level. So happy birthday and happy anniversary.